like powered through one to where you're like, okay, there's too many distractions, but you're set, and now you're just kind of doing it, and you don't really care what the response is. You're like, okay, I'm going to get from here to there, and we're going to. I did one of those in a brewery show. It was Smoky Mountain Brewery. Guy came in, asked me to be on it. We were already vacation. I was like, cool, I'll do that. Mm-hmm. And he came in, and this is a busy brewery, and he's got a little square, mic, or not mic, but a speaker and a mic, and that's it. And this place is so loud,
right?
And the people that are there with me can't even hear. And I'm just like powering through. I'm just like, you know what? I'm going to do this. I said I'd do it, so I'm going to do it. And there was no laughs. It was not much fun, but yeah.
But you felt like you were able to kind of still create the illusion that you were enjoying yourself.
Oh, I tried.
Okay,
I tried. Yeah,
that's great. I need to work on that because I think people could start after 10 minutes. It starts to be obvious that I'm like. Yeah. No, and that's not good because these are the people they're trying to enjoy. They don't necessarily know it's a bad show.
Yeah.
So once you start to kind of signal that you're not having fun, then I feel like I start it becomes this spiral of death.
Oh, yeah. It's momentum that builds for sure.
Do you pretend the mic?
That's a good idea. Yeah, try to create act like something besides the show is bad. Yeah. I'll try that next time.
Or just lip sync.
Yeah, because it's I'm pretty aware of what level I'm at, so I don't expect it's like how many shows do you get a year that are like truly great shows? It's like it's not going to be most of them,
right? Yeah.
But then you get like a certain number of bad ones in a row, and you just start to kind of question the whole.
Oh yeah,
like why am I driving so far? The money's not good.
I've been quitting comedy for 2 years. I mean, I have. I'm just like And then usually something good happens. I'm like, all right, this is okay.
Right.
It's like they say about golf. People go back for that one shot. Mm-hmm. That one shot, I'm like, oh, I could do that all the time. But no,
Yeah, I still get fooled when I have a good one, too. I'm like, it's going to be good. It's going to be good for a while, Right. You get a taste of it, and then it just goes back down.
Yeah.
Is it me? Is it me or is it them? Is it me? No. It's me. It's me.
Yeah, because it's changed. You're like Brian. You're like one of the OGs of comedy in the region. Like, do you feel like it's better? Because now there's more places to do it.
Yeah,
more people doing it. But now it's like any just the corner of some loud brewery, or they'll be like, yeah, let's do a show there. Like, do you?
Yeah, there's so many of them anymore that I think you're a little saturated with some because. I think what happens a lot of times too, and I'll tell you just kind of by virtue of what's happening in East Tennessee, or at least the Bristol Tri-Cities, there was some success at Blue Ridge. They had some good shows. A lot of people went through the classes, or whatever. And now everybody wants to start doing their own shows at different places. So there's all these bars and places, and there's a bunch of open mics, which aren't bad to have those, but sometimes it's a little much for an area that, like I know they had, they were having. I know of one open mic that they were having, and ideally it should be a great open mic, but just wasn't a ton of people coming just because there's just so much of that happening. But
yeah,
there's a lot more talent though now for
right.
sure. There's a lot more people out there doing it, which I think is awesome.
Yeah,
because it's early on, man, it was in Tri-Cities, it was me and Hunter Roberts. That was that was it.
And Joey.
Yeah, Joey. Well, Joey. Yeah, I didn't know Joey I was doing a number of years before I ever met Joey. So, but me and Hunter back 12, 13 years ago.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
And then Joey was like, there's a third guy doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I don't mind doing like just a horrible whatever. Nobody came, and it's just like in town. It's like, well, I'm home in 10 minutes, so like I accept that a lot of it's going to be that. But when you go like a far away, when you like book a tour, and you put the dates up online, and then it looks like it's going to be this real legit tour. You start to kind of fool yourself in your mind, like they're going.
Well, and I'm real good about being a poser. I'll put all those little posts up there, and of course, if I sit there and had to put up just the paid shows, there wouldn't be anything up there. It's just was, hey, can I get on the show? And there's like, sure, so.
Yeah. I hope I don't sound too cynical. Last night was just a real rough one. But then on Wednesday night, I had like one of the best sets I've had in like a year.
Oh, that's awesome.
The music hall open mic. So I think maybe that kind of set me up for. Like I should have just let that one Like I could have felt good about that one for
Yeah.
a whole week, but then I immediately went and just had a really bad bomb.
I mean, it's amazing how that happens. Like I've even done shows like at Blue Ridge on a Friday and Saturday, and like Friday, just it would go so good, and Saturday do the exact same show, and it's not near as good. I'm like, what did I do different?
Yeah,
and it's just weird sometimes how it works.
Yeah, could it have been good, or was it just is there a bug in here?
Was.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, I find that the level of drunkenness helps or hurts, depending upon where you're at.
Yeah.
So if they're having a good time, it's easier to have a good time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like a nice hot crowd is good.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
To a point.
Yeah. Then it gets too it's sloppy
Yep.
at some point. Yeah. So Phil, you're interesting because you kind of, would you say you do like a character? Is that safe to say? Like your Grampy is sort of like not necessarily you?
It's my future me.
Okay.
So it's
because you don't scan as that old when you're not Grampy.
I'm 60, and
Okay.
of course, my vision is when I'm 70. If I'm any good, that's when I want to hit the road. So I'm kind of looking at what would that
he's setting
person
up that show for then.
what would that person look like at 70 and working on.
Oh, that's interesting.
So I've got 10 years of working on material to have a good 5 minutes. You think I could do that in 10 years, 5 minutes, maybe?
Oh, you got 5. You got 5 covered.
But the nice thing about it, it's like writing a book. I can come up with just any crazy thing. I was telling Brian a couple of things on the way over here of stuff I'd like to do. I'd like to come up with a rap song under Grampy. That's just still trying to be hip and working on all these conspiracy theories like the flat earth. I'm working on a flat dolly conspiracy, trying to work on those type of things. But I can do so much more as Grampy than I feel comfortable doing as Phil that sells insurance.
Gotcha.
So that's just
I
me.
don't know. Phil that sells insurance. I feel like I got some Phil that sells insurance material. I might come up with,
Yeah, there might be a little Phil that sells insurance in all of us, really.
It could be.
Yeah.
It is interesting though, because I think the tendency is to try to scan young, like in our culture, is to, to try to scan younger. So it's kind of cool that you're like, just by virtue of doing the opposite, you're like going for older than you are.
Well, I've heard that, there's different types of clean comedy. There's like corporate clean, church clean, and then there's senior clean. So I've heard that I get away with a few things that may not quite fit into the other clean because it's, farts and diapers and all that kind of stuff that you can't really do.
Wow. Yeah, that's
such a vision,
squeaky.
right?
Yeah, because I think we can all work clean, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I know,
Yeah.
and that's I think that I know here that like I'm one of the only people that can work clean.
Well, that's I think up there too. And it was funny because I was just telling Phil, when I called you about the brouhaha, I thought, who's got that much material clean locally? And Sean, he was busy, and I was like, well, I'm gonna have to motor out a little bit, see who I can find, So yeah, it's hard, man. Having a full set of clean material is tough.
Yeah, it definitely chops the length down a little. I mean, I try to be clean in general. Like when I do the mics here, I'll often like curse a lot, and that's usually because I don't believe in the material, and I'm just trying to get something. But then if a joke goes in my act, I try to really get it clean. And I hope I was like doing that show. It's always kind of like, what does clean mean?
Yeah.
And I think I was pretty clean. There might be like one thing, but then like Spielberg was talking about smoking weed for like half of his set, and everybody loved it. So I was like, all right, I think I'm good.
Right? Yeah.
But he's also like really, just a pro. So I think he has the confidence. When you're that good, you can kind of get people to go with you.
Well, and I think, I honestly, I think I push the boundaries a little bit of what, clean is. I'm just, I'll clean up my language, right? And then I'll have some stuff that's very suggestive.
Gag gift, you
Yeah,
just like on the line.
Gag gift on the line. Yeah, stuff. I wouldn't even consider that one of the things, but because, it's not definitely not clean, but, it's not graphic.
Yeah.
I think suggestive things that aren't graphic are kind of okay.
Like a little kid wouldn't understand what you meant. So if they were in the room, it would just go over their head.
Right.
So it's
yeah. So I don't know. I'm not as squeaky as what sometimes I need to be. I think So.
And sometimes I wish that there was jokes I could slide in and get away with that I can't, because they're good jokes. But you were talking about clean. We were talking on the way over about finding ladies that are clean, that are funny.
Yeah.
Hitting all three of those criteria, it's a slim, short list.
Because just ladies is a lot less.
Right. Yeah.
Clean is a lot less. So you're asking for like what was the third one?
Good.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. So that's like just one of those three is kind of hard, and then you start getting 2 and 3.
Yeah. I mean, they're out there. There's some out there, but they're hard. They're hard to find for sure.
Yeah, but it's that pyramid, finding all three. You might get 2, but getting all 3, and it's kind of unfortunate that women feel like that they've got to come out and be vulgar or graphic or sexual to get the attention.
Yeah, it does feel to me like I would rather hear a lady do that than a dude talking about his dick, because I've heard that, it's like when a lady's talking about gross stuff, I'm like, well, this does feel a little progressive in some way. Like it feels like a newer place to go, whereas like sometimes it'll be like 5 dudes in a row that look like me talking about their dicks. And I'm just like, man, this is not good.
That's watered down anymore for guys, because you can go to open mic, there'll be 30 people on there. You might have 20 dudes, and half of those guys are doing similar stuff.
Yeah.
It's drugs or dick jokes or whatever, and it's get old after a while. That's what, like when I first started, dude, I couldn't be clean. I mean, when I first started, I could not be clean. And then the longer I was doing it,
you mean you didn't have enough skill at writing jokes to be clean, or the crowds didn't want it, or
no? I just that was easy, and it was easy. It was one of these things that I was like path of least resistance. Easy to write jokes that aren't clean.
Yeah,
and I was doing them, and then as I got older, I'm like, okay. Now I'm getting looked at a little bit weird, because it's like, what's Grandpa talking about there? You know what I mean? Like,
I've started to cross that line.
Yeah, it's like, what? Yeah, I don't want to hear about his blowjob.
You're like a sexy young, like 24-year-old guy. Everybody's like, okay, but yeah, I'm kind of already like, now that I'm like, I could be the dads of, I'm 45, where it's like, it gets a little like, what is like the gross old dude?
Oh yeah.
Talking?
So maybe.
No, go ahead.
So maybe what we're saying is, once you get to a certain point, getting laid and all those kind of things don't happen, so it's not believable anymore. So but maybe we have to cross over to the clean.
As Grampy, it's like if you go far enough though to the 70, then it gets funny again.
Oh, that's true.
Because then you're like, well, he's 70, he can say whatever the hell he wants.
Yeah,
he's an old dude.
I have some friends that own a retirement community. And dude, some of the stories that I get from those guys, Grampy, you're in for some fun, man. I'm telling you, for sure.
I've heard of like the ratio of female to male is like very high, because dudes tend to die younger. So if you can be like the ultimate player of the retirement home.
Well, they say STDs are spread quicker amongst retirement facilities than anywhere else.
I don't know if you heard it. That community in Florida, the Villages, is supposed to be the highest STD rate in the country.
That makes so much sense. Florida retirement.
Oh, for sure, dude.
And tequila, margaritas, it all feeds in there. So,
I mean, how bad is it to get a STD in the last 5 years or 10 years of your life? It's like, I don't know.
What do you care?
Worth it, yeah. At the beginning of your whole sexual life, you're like, oh, dang, now I got to explain this to everybody. But you're like, I'm already old and gross.
I mean, if you're like 75, it's like, hey, man, guess what I got?
Yeah. Well, that they've come out with a pill that's stronger than Viagra. It's called the Easter pill. It raises the dead. Sorry. You cut that one out.
That's all right. I was like, is he joking or not? I was like,
Sorry. You're kind of looking at me side-eyed on that one. I have to slip one.
No, man, it's all part of it. We embrace all the awkward moments. And sometimes I like a good, just long lull after somebody says something. It's all part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you guys you've done the podcast up there? Nathaniel has.
Yeah, Nathaniel's. I've done Nathaniel's.
Talking bits.
Yeah.
Yeah, I joke because I say I've done it twice. Mm-hmm. I've done it once, but my daughter did it once, and all they did was talk shit about me. So I was on it twice.
Yeah. How did you feel about that? Was it?
It was fun, man.
Yeah.
It was fun. Yeah, I like. Yeah, it was. I enjoyed the podcast doing it, and I enjoyed Cassidy's podcast with him too. It was a lot of fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
I cannot imagine having my daughter coming and doing jokes. I mean, Bryan takes it all in stride, but when she starts talking about some of the things she talks about, I'm like, oh, my Lord.
Yeah, she's not clean.
That's cool, though. I mean, it seems that way. I have 2 daughters, and like go up there, and she'd be at the bar. She started doing comedy, I think, pretty soon after that. But you guys would both be in the room together. It's kind of, I don't know, it feels kind of progressive to me. Like, why hide that? You know, why hide who you are on stage from your family? It seems like, do you feel like it's helped you guys get like closer to?
We're pretty tight anyway. I mean, she's a mini me kind of, and she'll be the first to say that we have a lot of similarities. We're pretty tight anyway. But it was funny because, you know, I was doing it, and I think, you know, early on when I was doing it, and this was when I was married too, they're all kind of like, yeah, Dad, whatever, you know. Nobody's taking it seriously. Mm-hmm. You know, I'd try jokes out on them at home, and they would just, dead.
Corny dad.
Yeah, corny dad or whatever, right?
I get a lot of that.
Yeah, and then, like, you know, she started working at the club, and she started seeing things or whatever. And she was an excellent writer anyway. I mean, not even comedy. She's just very good with words. And I was like, dude, you're so good at writing, and you get a great sense of humor. You should try to write some jokes. And I think she took Sean's class, and then she started writing some stuff. And then, like, after she was doing pretty well with it, I was like, hey, you might want to try to write some clean stuff. You know, push yourself, you know? She's like, I'm going to med school. I'm not that interested. I was like, all right, I feel you. So,
but her specialty that she wants is psychiatry, right? And that,
psychiatry, yeah.
Yeah. So you think any of that's kind of developed from the comedy and seeing? Because some people say comedy's therapy. Yeah, you know, that's their therapeutic session. So you think that's put that in there, or do you think it's the other way around?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know how she'll do that. I mean, I already make fun of her now for the psychiatry thing because she does some dumb shit. And I'm like, you know, and then I'm telling the story about something she did. And I'm like, and she's going to be somebody's psychiatrist, y'all. I mean, that's, you know, yeah, she amazes me at some of the stuff. I might as well tell the story. This is her, but it's just hilarious to me. Got a lake back home. We're going to the lake. She's got some of her med school friends. They're like, Dad, we're going to have to go get something to eat when we get out there. There's a restaurant we want to go to. I was like, well, they got a pizza place at the dock, which is the best pizza place around there. I was like, I don't know if it's open, but if it is, we should get it. So she's like looking it up on her phone. She's like, I found it. She's reading the menu. She calls. She's like, are you guys open? They said, yep. So she orders a couple pizzas. We get to the dock, and I said, I'm going to get the boat. You guys going up there, pick up the pizza, and I'll pick you up at the dock. I come around. Pizza place, definitely not open. I mean, closed down, nothing there. I was like, hey, Cassidy, the pizza place is closed. She's like, yeah, I know, right? And I'm like, where the fuck did you order pizza from? And then she got a call a little bit later from a number in Buffalo. And then she looked up her phone, and it was called Lakeview Pizza in Buffalo, New York. And I'm like, how do you do that? Yeah, crazy.
I don't know. There's a lot of clues in there that she's doing good. That she's like going for like an ambitious degree, doing comedy. I think I've seen videos of her like working out and stuff.
CrossFit queen.
She's a beast.
My fear is like my kids are just gonna like just be on the couch smoking pot forever or whatever. So it's like just getting them like doing stuff.
Oh, I hear
doing
you.
hard stuff.
Don't get me wrong, man. I'm pretty proud of her. She's something, man. She's an animal. She's driven, you know.
Yeah.
And now that's not mini me. I don't know where she gets that, but
oh yeah,
she's pretty driven.
And she was a D1 hurdler too, so I mean she's done extremely well.
Yeah, she was all Southern Conference, man. She's a fast girl.
Yeah, it's interesting what you said about psychology because I think like I don't know how it is up there in Bristol, but pretty unhinged. It's like the average. Like I've learned that I'm extremely well adjusted by just being part of a comedy community.
Sure.
Like I mean I don't know. You guys seem like you're here on time. I mean, you know,
right,
yeah, I think you're both employed. You know, you can work clean. I mean, do you get that? Is it like that in Bristol, where like the average comedian is like kind of on the edge, the brink of like there's insanity?
There's some grief and some trauma and some drama, you know. And sometimes I wish I had more bullshit so it'd be funny.
I know. That's my biggest challenge, I think, is I'm too high functioning. I'm too normal.
I know. It's funny. And I may actually told somebody one day I saw Jerry Seinfeld's newest thing. I was like, Jerry Seinfeld's a funny guy. I was like, I didn't like it as well, but he's a freaking billionaire now. I mean, like, he doesn't have to be funny. He's got it made, you know? Yeah. And I think sometimes you need the hard knock life to kind of channel that inner comedian, you know?
Yeah, there's people that'll come out and like occasionally somebody will get real good in like less than a year, which is unusual. But the longer you stick around, the more you have those people come up behind you, and usually if they get that good that fast, it's because their life is just so much trauma, and there's such a like you get up there and you do some like well crafted jokes you've been working on for years, and it like goes well, but then some just maniac just starts saying whatever the hell's in their head and it's like as good. Yeah, it's like better. Everybody's like, I'm like, damn, like it's very frustrating.
It's like a car wreck. You want to watch it. Right. You want to watch it. You want to see how it ends. Yeah. But you don't want to be part of it.
Yeah, and then you got to follow it with like all the stuff you've worked on way harder, and you can't do it. You know?
Well, and sometimes it's a whole other level of energy too. Like when they're speaking from like just the whatever, there's just automatically more of a energy to it. You know, I did a show with a girl, and I think she was very much like that. And I was like, and like me, I mean, I had my whole thing that I'd done a million times, and she went on right before me, and she just murdered. And I mean, I was cracking up too. I mean, but it just sounded like she was just talking about things. I didn't hear any material really, and the crowd loved her. And then I went up there, and I'm like, yeah, so airplanes, whatever, kind of thing. And I was like, yeah,
like going right after somebody like that can almost make you seem a little more like artificial, or it's like now it's stand-up comedy time, where it was this insane, like I don't even know what you call that, but it's like the room's still kind of just wrecked from
And some people, they're just naturally funny.
Yeah.
I was down at the weekend for a Clean Comedy Challenge, and the lady won. Her name was Tanja D. Mm-hmm. And she's just a funny black lady. I mean, she could talk about going to the bathroom, and it was funny. I mean, some people are like that. I've got to work a little harder. I guess that's the reason I come out as Grampy, so.
Yeah. I feel the same way. I had to work. Like Keith Marcel was on here last week, and he was like, I'm just funny. I come from a funny family. We talk shit, and I'm like, that explains it.
He's too. Just like, he's just that way.
He's just talking about what happened today. It's probably gonna be pretty funny. Like for me, it's like I have to work. I feel like I have to work so much harder.
I'm the same way. I'll tell you another example, and I don't know if you remember this or not, Ryan, but I was telling Phil about this on the way over here. I remember I asked you if you wanted to be on that brewery show many years ago.
Oh yeah, with Cody. And,
Well, you'd said I got a friend if you need somebody else, and I was like, bring him. And you're like, okay, put him on after me.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay. And I'd never met Cody. And he goes on right before me. And he starts out just talking about the bus station that used to be there. And he is murdering. I mean, just with crowd work. And I'm like, son of a bitch. I'm going on right after this guy, But he killed it.
Yeah, what's that movie, The Usual Suspects? You know that movie with the Kaiser Soze?
Oh, yeah.
Where he finds out, he just was looking at the board. It was like, that's what he did. He was over there, and there was some historic like newspaper articles on the wall about Bristol.
Yeah.
And he was just like scanning it and pulling out things, and then he made it. Which it's interesting too, because like I could have seen that going either way. Like he went all in on a super big risk with that room, and it totally worked.
Oh, it definitely worked. Yeah.
But that was why. Yeah, I was like, I'll go before Cody. I remember he was just screaming into that microphone the whole time, and it was distorting, and I was like, thank God these people are enjoying this.
No, they did,
man. You're going to be like, why'd you bring this guy? You ruined the whole show.
Yeah. Oh, they ate it up, because I was like, okay, I'm just going to go up there and do my normal stuff. And so, but yeah, it was fun. That was a good show.
You murdered that night, too.
It was a fun show.
Yeah,
it was a good one.
That was because we had done the Double Tree. Is that what it's called? It's not there. What was it called?
No, Willow Tree. Yeah, the open mic.
And I just seemed to do maybe like 5. We got to do like 5 minutes at that. It was fun. But then you invited me to do that show, and you did like 20 or 30. And I was oh damn, this dude's like got a lot of material and has been doing this for a while. So that's cool. I mean, it's interesting that comedy club started there, and I'm glad that you guys have a good, because you have all this experience.
Yeah.
And then there's all these new people that started.
Yeah.
Because there probably wouldn't even be a comedy scene in Bristol without the club, right? Would you say that that's
well, yeah,
a big
when
part of it?
When Sean moved there and opened up that club, I mean, because the only thing we were doing before then was there were 2 or 3 people that I knew around the area that I thought, well, if people that knew that I did it, but I was mostly having to go places to do it because there was nowhere there. They said, hey, why don't you do a show? And then I'd see who I could get to come in and do it. But that was rare, man. So there wasn't much going on. But when he opened up the club, that was too. When I realized I needed to clean it up, I said it's like he had me on the first show. He didn't know me. He never heard me or anything. I'm friends with his wife, Sarah, and she said, "Yeah, Bryan does comedy or whatever." He'd never seen video, never nothing, right? And he's got 2 guys from Boston, very funny guys, John Baglio and Andrew Mayer. And he said, you want to do a guest spot? And I was like, sure. And so I go on there, and I still got some grimy stuff. I mean, there's one joke that I used to do all the time that people loved. It's just the dirtiest joke, And that's what I
think I know the joke.
Oh, it's like the washing your hands thing.
Oh, okay, never mind.
Okay, yeah. But I ended with that, and I didn't realize, and I hadn't done enough shows with enough, kind of pros to realize that, like, I'm the guest and these guys are clean, and like I should probably not be dirty right before they go on, But you felt it and you were able to adjust, because I mean that's going to happen. But what I see is a lot of people who are like, will deny it and be like, it's not my fault that they'll dig their heels in on it. The fact that you could actually like keep evolving is cool. Well, yeah. So I had to, because I came off stage and I passed Andrew Mayer, and he was like, oof. Yeah. That was the last time I ever did that joke. I mean, it was. Retired. Yeah. I was like, you know what? That's time to clean up your act, I've had that moment too where you're like, was that as bad as I think it was? And somebody's like, yeah, it was. You're like, oh, that wasn't just me that thought. Like one time I bombed so hard the host got up and I was like, maybe it was just me that then. He was like, you guys got to be nice to these people. They drove from Asheville. Like I was like, yeah, they do hate me and they want to destroy me. Yeah. I don't know. Phil, did you do any like other before? Did you start comedy like with the club? It was a bucket list thing. Okay. And we just actually attended Blue Ridge Comedy, and a buddy of mine, we were just sitting there and attended the show, and then I saw Sean comes up afterwards and said, if you think you could be funny, we have open mic on Wednesdays and all that kind of stuff. So I said, Eddie, let's go. So we went, and then I found out they had a class. So it's like, I bombed big time. First time I ever did it. I had a lot of liquid courage and just, nothing original, just spewing at the mouth. And I always tell people, if you ever do it, don't feel like you got to take the full 5 minutes. I thought I was supposed to take the full 5 minutes, and I was just digging. It can be a long time. Yeah. Digging. And, so I thought, well, if I want to do this, I need to take a class. And we talked about that, how many people actually get up and start doing stand-up comedy have never read a book, never figured out joke structure, never taken a class, but they think they're funny. Yeah. And maybe they are. I don't know, but most usually aren't. They're not. No, I mean, there's a difference between being funny with your buddies. Yeah. Yeah. That's what I tried the first open mic. Was like, okay, I got some funny stories. Yeah. And, they're like, first of all, it took forever to get to it, and then I figure out, you had to be there kind of story. Yeah, yeah. That's what most audience members are like. They're watching you bomb. Go, this guy's not funny. I'm funny. I was just making my friends laugh. It's right. Like, it's different trying to expand that. That's what I like about it. Is it's like you try to start making strangers laugh in your city, and then once that starts working, you start going to other cities. And then you find out, well, okay, that's just Asheville people that laugh at that. It's like trying to widen your sense of connecting with people. That's what I truly love about it, is trying to like go to a city and make people laugh, and then go out in the country and make people laugh. Like try to connect with as many groups as you can. Yeah. And I think that's the litmus test, because you'll have friends, I could stack a room full of all my friends and they're going to laugh just because it's me, they know me and all that kind of thing. But you go somewhere where nobody knows you. Yeah. Nobody. Yeah. And if you can pull a laugh, that's when you're like, okay, maybe I'm figuring a few things out. Yeah. And that's what I enjoy, going to different places, telling my A and my B and my, all my top jokes. And that's where the fun hits.
Yeah, these people don't know you. They don't care about you. Like, let's see. Because a lot of people will, the classic, like, you bring all your friends to your first open mic spot,
Oh, yeah, for sure.
You see that all the time, and you're like, oh, let's put that person up last so their friends stay, because none of us brought it. They're the only person their friends will come, and then they like murder, because all their friends are like, oh, my God, they're doing it. It's just funny to see your friend do something like that.
Right, yeah,
and then they come back, like, the second or third time with no friends. And
it's like, we had an open mic like that. There was a girl that took the class at Blue Ridge, and it wasn't open mic. It was kind of a booked open mic kind of deal in Whitfield, Virginia, and she brought her whole family. And I think they were going to put her on first. I was like, put her on last because
keep that crowd here.
We need them. I mean, they were the majority of people there. I was like, no, let's just wait. Yeah.
Yeah, it's foreign to me because I still don't like performing for like my family and friends unless I know it's going to be a good show.
Yeah.
Because it's like, I don't mind bombing in front of strangers, but like my mom's going to only see me do it like once a year. It's you bombing and you look out and she's out. That's like, ugh, it's just extra shameful.
Yeah. I mean, friends sometimes are not as bad, but family, dude, yeah. It just hits different with family,
Mm-hmm. Well, my mom's 84, and we went to this place in Gray called the Boone's Creek Opry. So they do mostly bluegrass, all that kind of stuff. And they were doing an open mic, and there's only a couple of people that signed up. And I asked the lady, I said, hey, can I go up and do some comedy? Because my mom's always like, hey, I want to see you do comedy, but I don't want her to come to a bar to see it. So I did fairly well. And my 84-year-old mom, Grampy's my son. That's
the best possible way it could have gone. Don't ever let her come again. Because it's like you did it.
Oh, she's my biggest fan. So if I said to be there, she'd be everywhere. But I just don't want her coming to the bar and suffering through an open mic. Yeah.
So was that an open mic you did, or was it just?
It was an open mic after it was like a paid musicians where they were playing bluegrass, and then they kind of. Flipped a switch, but then most of the open micers were singing, so it was kind of a combined. You could get up and read poetry if you wanted to.
That's interesting. I find those mics and shows or whatever where they're not expecting comedy, that those are a challenge. Like I remember, or any kind of a venue,
like a mixed mic.
Oh, I'll tell you what. One time, this is funny. This was early on when I was doing comedy, and I'd done some shows, so I was probably a little overconfident at the time. And we were all watching at a bar in Bristol, like watching the Tennessee game. And the owner of the bar was like, hey, man, at halftime, why don't you go up and do a little bit? And I was like, sure. Nobody was there for that. There was like a table of like 3 ladies that they immediately left.
The room wasn't like arranged and dialed in for there to even be a person, right?
No,
it was like from TVs
there was nothing. And I was like, I'm never doing that again. I learned that lesson early on,
I had a few. I used to do some of the mixed mics here when we only had like 2 a week. Like there'd be one at the Jack of the Wood. And sometimes it would go great when it would be like 3 people in a row with acoustic guitars doing the saddest... and then just the fact that you're like, hey, I'm looking people in the eye and trying to be. It's like there's a few times where I murdered because they were just so grateful to break it up, just the depressing. And it's funny because I've done a lot of music that way too. So I was like, oh, I think I figured out something else here, But that's the thing that comes up on this podcast a lot too. Is just like the at my level, like. Pretty much every show I do, like nobody's ever bought a ticket that has my name on it. Like what would it be like to like everywhere you go, people like already like you?
Yeah, right.
Like you have a room full of people that already like you, and like, can you even trust that? Like, I mean, I don't expect that to ever even happen to me, but like, it's so the opposite of that. Yeah. Like it's just trying to get people to even like last night at the brewery. It's like just trying to get them to even pay attention.
Yeah,
it's like they're rolling a bowler up a hill.
Yeah. Yeah. I can't imagine how cool, because people like that too. Likely they've probably already heard a lot of what they're getting ready to do again. Yeah, but it's just And
that seems to be the challenge too. It's like everybody wants you to put out these reels, but you're like putting out your best jokes. So it's like, why should they come watch me?
Yeah,
and I think that's the reason a lot of people do the crowd work reels, because then it's organic and not part of your jokes.
I'm so bad at crowd work, dude. I avoid it kind of like. I do have a way to ignore it. Like things that like other comedians will be like, hey, someone's on their phone or whatever happens. I'm like blinders, dude. I'm like, just power through, big dog. Yeah. You got it. Every now and then I'll maybe say something, but just no, don't talk to me, please.
I think there's some wisdom in that. Just like do the material. I kind of experiment with crowd work, and there's times where I try to do it a lot. Like for me, crowd work is like I was so terrified of them that just being able to attempt crowd work, like it's helped me like just get comfortable.
Yeah.
Like I feel like it's best not to do it, but if you're terrified of doing it, then that your material can even suffer.
Sure.
Because you just see that like when somebody's like doing their jokes and then somebody drops a drink and they're like, they just they get thrown off by it, and and then the crowd's like, ooh, this guy's like scared, so now we're not feeling as relaxed.
Yeah.
But then a lot of times you'll do crowd, like last night it's the brewery, it's impossible, and you just kind of like you get going and you get like a minute in and you're like, there's just not, this crowd work is not funny either. And then it's like, what do you do with that? Like, do you just abort on it or do you keep going? Like you're talking to one person and it's really bad, and then other people start like pulling their phones out and you're like,
I tried to do some crowd work at a brewery up in Withville, and it was during the NCAA basketball tournament. And it was a whole group of men. They were like right in the front and everything, but they did not want to hear they didn't want to hear anything. They were focused on that basketball game.
Was it on while you were doing it?
Oh man,
yeah.
They were
on.
And so to me, they got to buy a ticket and they got to be there for comedy. Otherwise, you're just setting yourself up for failure.
Yeah, when they like the brewery gigs are often free. Like the one we did with you that you were talking about, that was like a ticketed event. That was great. I mean, and I've had many great brewery gigs, but a lot of times it's like we got beer, we got like cornhole. There's a comedy show going on. You're not invested. You just kind of check it out. You go. Nobody. There's like the first 3 rows are just empty. No one's even trying to be close to it.
Yeah.
So everybody it's just not conducive to like how could it work,
right?
Like we kind of know what a good room feels like low ceilings and kind of people are close and you get that compression, and then when there's all that ambient noise and stuff, it really is just impossible to do great. But like what is the goal like at a show like that? Just to like do your time?
I think I think to do your time and hope that you feel good about what you did. I mean, or at least not bad, I mean, that's me. It's not bad. Those, and I'm not doing as many of those anymore. I just, for me, it's gotten now to where it's like, I'm working all the time, and I still like doing comedy, but I'm just not doing as many of those,
Yeah.
I think if I ever get to Phil's point where I'm ready to hang it up and go on the road and do it, then I'll have to really take it more seriously than that. But yeah. But
at some point, it's like saying yes to everything. I've just starting to feel like, well, if some things are taken away from my enthusiasm.
Yeah.
Like I would almost rather go do the mics in town and just try new stuff than like drive far for like a impossible brewery gig. And just the family, and it's like I'm gone for a whole night. So it's like I'm trying not to say yes to things that. It's almost like they take away from my enthusiasm. Like some things will kind of chip away. Like I don't know. I'm coming up on like 9 years, so I'm trying to kind of shift a little.
Yeah.
But I still don't consider myself to be like big time or too good for any gig or anything like that.
I'm the same way. I mean, I don't either. It's just, but it's easier to do shows. Like it's like you've done. I think you've done some stuff with Funny Business before, right?
Yeah.
They're always good shows, man.
Yeah.
And I always love hearing from them because they vetted them. You know what I mean? You're at a venue that they've done it before. They know what to expect.
Full of people that pay for a ticket. Good sound.
Yeah, and I just love those.
Yeah.
And I wish I did more of those. So,
And they pay.
They pay.
They, like that will pay for like a whole week of Atlanta shows where you don't even cover your gas.
Yeah.
Much less the hotel.
Yeah. Oh, and speaking of which, I think you did the Cary Theater one time before too, right?
Yeah.
How different was that for you than doing a Nashville show? Because that has got to be a complete 180 demographic.
And I like that. Like, I mean, I tend to do better. I'm kind of a fish out of water in this town, whereas like I can do a clean. I have kids set, and I go to the auditorium on Tuesdays, and it's like just the fact that I look like this and have kids, people are already like, ugh. Get another drink or hit the restroom or whatever. So it's kind of like that. That's always. I remember like Funny Business booked me like my second year of comedy, and it was a Grey Eagle show, and I wasn't really that aware of the room yet, but I like murdered. I did like better than all the comics that or I was like on that level, and I didn't understand that because it was an older crowd.
Yeah.
People that have families, maybe have a little more money, like I can sort of do better with those
That's
crowds.
my people, dude.
Yeah.
That's mine too.
I killed at Cary, you know,
Yeah.
but like I could do the same stuff here, and it would be like very kind of
Yeah, and Cary's still like by Raleigh, so they got all the universities and stuff.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
I did that show with Cliff, and then he invited me to do another one, and it was like I thought that it was the same as Cary, but I realized afterwards the second one was way more rural.
Okay.
So it was like even though I thought it was the same. It's like no, those folks in Cary are still next to like universities, and like
Yeah.
you could talk a little about like I'm still. Sometimes when I get too out in the country, there starts to be this thing where it's like I'm talking down to them, which is not what I want. But I've had it happen before that I'm kind of like Mr. Asheville, with the liberal glasses, and like so that's a new thing that I'm becoming aware of too. I think even like in Kingsport, a little bit like that, where it can be a little like. Oh, fancy Asheville, gay Asheville glasses, dad. And I'm like here out there, almost like, what is he, a Republican or something? And then I go out in the country, and they're like, this dude's like way too gay. So it's weird, just I get sized up both ways. Like
That's funny, man.
It's just
yeah.
like just the divisiveness of now. Like I see both sides. I'm a very like I'm not in a sortable bucket of,
I'm not
of
either,
left or
man.
right, but
Yeah.
then. It's like sometimes people want you to be, so it's
Sure.
like I kind of feel like I don't fit in anywhere, really.
Yeah. No, I feel that 100%, man. But I knew because I think about that crowd that carrying it, like it's an older crowd, and I'm like, how different is that than like doing a show here?
Yeah, pretty different. And
Yeah.
definitely there's a spectrum here between we do like brewery gigs that'll often be like, similar to Cary, where it's like people are here from Charleston,
Sure.
and they're like, 60 years old, and they
Yeah,
have
yeah,
enough
yeah.
money to like go out and do stuff. So there's an element of that here, but then there's like the alt shows, like the auditorium. I love how you said you like went to the Odd one time and you like just walked in and you're like, nah, there's like dead baby ashtrays and just like goth paintings on the wall.
No,
and you're
it was
just
funny.
like,
I drove over here because I was like, this is before there was any Blue Ridge. It's like I saw that there was a mic over there, and I walked in, and I was like, I'm just gonna go get something to eat.
Yeah, it's hard. Like I'm already, it's weird because I've been going to that room since I was in my 20s playing in bands, and it's like I get older, they stay the same. Like it keeps getting harder. Like every year, it's harder to like relate to that room.
Yeah.
But I'm also like aware that like. Those crowds that are older than me are going to be dead, and like if I'm still want to do this in 10 or 20 years, it's like I do want to try to be able to perform for younger crowds. You guys know Art Sturdivant, right?
Yeah.
Like he's real inspirational to me because he's like, I'm like older than everybody here except for like a handful of people. Art's 20 years older than me.
Yeah.
And he comes out to all those shows. He comes out to like the Odd and really makes a point to like try to, he could literally be their grandpa,
Yeah, right,
maybe
right.
even great grandpa.
Right, yeah.
And like I see him as an inspiration where like he might not always murder in those rooms, but he's not just going for his team,
Right, yeah,
he's
yeah.
willing to like you get older and you just get more humbled, so it's like you kind of lean into like making an ass of yourself in front of a bunch of young people, like there's something to be learned.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. No, yeah.
It's nice to do well once in a while too, though.
Yeah.
But I do think you bring up a point is knowing your audience.
Yeah.
I think it's like registration in college. You can fail a class in registration.
Mm-hmm.
I think you can bust on a show by having the wrong audience.
Yeah.
Right.
Like sometimes I've got a couple of jokes that I do, and it's just like it's over their head.
Yeah.
But if I see a bunch of gray heads in the room, 40 and above, I know I'm going to kill. I just absolutely know. Of course, you can go too far. You start getting some of the assisted living and nursing homes, and they're just like, there's no noise. They're just sitting there, and the only noises you hear are not the noises you want to hear. But that's just another.
There's
story.
like a lot of oxygen in the room.
Yeah, usually there's not a dry seat left in the house. That's usually what we say.
Yeah, it is interesting trying to like we talk about that on here a lot too, like know your audience, know your lane, but then also trying to like grow and bust out of that.
Sure.
But there are limits to like what you can be, because like the Odd will be a place where some insane person walks up off the street for the first time and says a bunch of crazy shit,
Yeah.
and then I just can't do better. I can't. It's hard to follow. So it's like it's. I'm always wanting to evolve and change, but it's also like, there are limits. And as you get older, too, I think it's,
Well, I think sometimes just where you are, like me, I'm 54 years old. I'm a white guy from East Tennessee. As soon as I go out there, people have already made kind of,
right.
they've already got like a thing about what I am, And so sometimes it's it can be hard to overcome. I did a room in Philadelphia one time, and this was maybe 10 years ago. So I was about your age, right?
Young dude.
But yeah, young.
Mid-40s.
But still, like, it was a mic, and I just found it because I was traveling for work. I was like, yeah, I need to get on a mic. And I'll bet there was nobody else there over 23.
Yeah.
And, and that was when I was still doing my dirty jokes, right? And they looked at me like, this guy. And it was over. I mean, even the guy that hosted it, I mean, he had fun. He made fun of me. I was like, all right, so, okay, here we go. I was like, yeah, I'm just going to go into the bar here.
You didn't just go straight out the door? Yeah. That was my show last night. I was like second to last, and it was hard not to just be like, just give the fist bumps and go to the car and leave. I was like, no, I do need to like stay and just,
Yeah.
But sometimes it's so shameful. It's like just still being in the room. I mean, everybody else has moved on, but in my mind, I'm still just like, this is just too embarrassing to even.
Oh yeah.
And it's bad when none of the other comedians we even talk to.
Yeah,
they're just like standing still, just don't associate.
Yeah, that bad, huh? That bad.
But I don't feel like I'm a bar comedian. I don't feel like I'm a brewery comedian. I feel like I'm more like a theater or stage comedian. That's where I kind of try to position my shows, are the ones that I want to be on.
Yeah, like a good show where people are there for comedy.
Yeah. But I'm just saying it's, there's a lot of places around and like the International Storytelling Center, I did one there. Great facility. And then, of course, Wallace Theater is always fun. I don't know if anybody's ever gone to Wallace and not had a good time there. That's in Johnson City.
Oh, I know what I feel like I know that name. Where is it?
It's downtown
I never
Johnson
have done
City.
that. I keep hearing about that.
Man,
one.
it's always a hot crowd. You should do it.
I think Phil. I think I sent him a message like a year ago. Let me know, but I don't know him. So
yeah, I know him. But every now and then they'll ask me if I want to do something there, like a show or whatever. So if next time I'll be like, hey, I got a couple guys.
Yeah, man. Yeah. I'd love to.
You would kill there. Ryan would do really well there.
You would.
I've heard everyone say that they love performing there. So I would love to get up there.
There's always a bunch of laughs. Last fall show I did though, it was kind of interesting because I'm walking down through there and I hear someone's like, "Hey, Brian." I look over, it's my preacher from my church. He's like, "Yeah, we want to come out and see you." And I was like, "Son of a bitch," And so, my first thing out there was like, "Hey guys, man, I had 20 minutes set up for you. See my preacher here, so we're gonna do a tight 4, And he loved it. I mean, I had to be very careful. There's a couple of church jokes that I do that are specific to my church that he would have recognized. I'm like, no, I'm not doing those. But
we got this boring ass preacher.
Well, it wasn't about him, just more about the church. But he would have definitely been like, oh, okay, he's talking about this, But no, it was fun.
Yeah, it is interesting when there's somebody in the room from another aspect of your life, and it's like I never even thought about that being inappropriate. But now that this person from work's here, I'm like, I'm rethinking that whole joke.
I was like, my set's going to be a lot like watching Pulp Fiction on ABC.
4 minutes long, yeah.
But you talk about clean shows, and one of the barriers is that when it is clean, that a lot of times younger people will come to the show, not necessarily kids, but younger people who also enjoy comedy, and it kind of affects you a little bit too. It's like, even though you're clean, is it clean enough for this person? Like, if they're 12, 13, so forth, it kind of puts you on your heels a little bit.
Yeah, and what is clean? That's the thing that I know with Greg from Funny Business, he goes, it's no cursing, no graphic sexual stuff. Suggestive is okay, and then no drug use, Yeah. But then it's still just how about those weed gummies that are legal? And that feels on the line. I almost think it's really this unspoken, how much do they trust you? So I always try to start clean and build to dirty. So it's hey, I'm a dad, we're not so different. My kids, I care about them. And then you might throw in a weed gummy joke or something later,
Sure.
It's almost like they say clean as a list of rules, but it's really just do they trust you?
100%, because I don't think anybody can really, and I've asked over the years, what do you consider clean, right? And you get different answers, right? I think there's levels to it too, right? But a show, any of those Funny Business ones, for sure, I'm kind of like you. I mean, I'm relatable in a lot of the stories that I tell to the people there. but I'll throw in some stuff that's suggestive, and I don't feel terrible about it, And I think as long as I'm not dropping F-bombs and all that other stuff, that it goes fine.
Yeah, that's my feeling too. Is that like usually there's been somebody that came through before that started talking about like anal sex and cocaine or something, and just kept going. Usually, and it's like they don't want you to do that. It's like I would never do that anywhere, even at the odd. I just don't do. So it's kind of like. Yeah,
I think you're right. I think it is because somebody just, lit the world on fire one day, and they're like, "Holy cow!" We don't want that.
Yeah, I did a show with Peachy Tom. You know Peachy Tom?
Oh yeah,
he books like clean shows. Oh yeah, we did the show with him. I did another one down in South Carolina with him, where I guess he told us all it was clean, but then this other guy must have forgot in the 3 months, and he got up and was just like. Just a lot of like F-bombs that weren't even really adding to the joke, but he just didn't seem to know. Like everyone, you can just feel how uncomfortable it's getting. But he's just like doubling down, and I remember like just watching like Tom just like pacing the hall. He's like so giant and scary. Like and he's like coming up to me. I'm like, I remember. I'll be clean. But it's just like. It was so uncomfortable. Yeah. So I think if you're just aware enough,
Peachy Tom and I did one at the Oconee Theater there in Seneca, and it was
the place.
And there was a guy get up there talking about G-spots and very graphic and the whole 9 yards. And of course, all the people in there were older.
Yeah,
they didn't want to hear that. That kind of stuff. They forgot about that stuff already. So it was
that was the room. That is an old room. Like
it is an old room.
And they were great. I mean, I did well. Yeah, I think I opened with just being like, I was going to throw in like a few well-placed curse words, but I think I used up all of them and kind of just. But it's like an old church or school or something, right? Like
old school.
Yeah,
it's like a semi-senior center or something like that theater.
But that's like old. Like that was old, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that was like. An old crowd, which I think is cool. I actually started. I was so terrified to do public speaking that I did Toastmasters first.
Oh yeah.
You guys heard of Toastmasters?
Yeah,
it's like a supportive, really friendly, just public speaking for work type place. I did do that for a year just to get the courage to even try jokes, and it's just very old. It's like the Rotary Club. It's like an old school. And I think old crowds are in some ways the best because they're going to actually sit there and give you time to talk, and they're not going to be like checking out on their screens. They don't have that 1 minute TikTok attention span.
Yeah.
So it's like my whole public speaking journey started with speaking to the elderly. So I kind of have like a soft spot in my heart for like, you see a bunch of like 80-year-olds, you're like, this is probably going to be all right, I mean, they'll all be dead in like 20 years, so I need to learn how to talk to younger people too. But
I made a joke one time about Carrie with some older people because this was a true story. After the show, a little old lady comes up to me and grabs me by the arm, and she's like, "Why aren't you on Netflix?" She's like, "I like you better than those people." And then I see this younger lady that's walking up real close to us, pretty fast, and she's like, "Grandma, you can't wander off like that." Yeah. So I'm like, bless her heart, man. I was like, yeah. So I was like, yeah. She's like, "You can't just wander off like we didn't know where you were."
Wow, you've heard of Netflix? That's amazing. My dad loves to tell me, he's like, you're way funnier than all these. None of these guys on Netflix are even funny, It's like there is a thing where it's like, well, if you were there, in the front row, you might think they're funny.
Oh yeah.
But I think it can kind of distort what people like. You're sitting there in your lazy boy chair, all comfortable.
It's different.
Judging people in the first 5 minutes. It's like, how often do you guys really do you watch specials or do you?
I do watch some specials for sure.
I'm pretty bad about it. I don't really watch a lot.
Well, I don't watch as many. I mean, like I watch the ones that I know. That I'm
your favorite comics.
Yeah, I mean like people that I know that I really like. So I watch all of Nate's stuff. I watch.
Oh man,
yeah.
How does he do it?
He's like at another level, man. Just clean and just awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, he's just got away. I'll tell you what though, one of my favorite specials that I've ever watched. I don't know if you ever saw it, but if you haven't. Was Rory Scovel's doing comedy for the first time. Have you seen that one?
Yeah, Rory is like probably possibly my favorite comic of all time. Yeah,
he is amazing.
Just the jokes and the improvising. Have you seen his Live Without Fear on YouTube? The one where it's just he's doing fully improvised sets.
No,
he's walking up to the mic. He has no idea what he's doing, and Yeah, it's like he does like 7 nights in Atlanta where he just gets up and he has no idea what he's going to say, and then they made a little documentary where they like kind of stitch together the best parts and it interviews in between. But it's amazing.
He's ridiculous.
Yeah,
too. I mean, just kind of the improv piece of his stuff is just
that's
incredible.
what I wish I could do, because it does get a little old saying the same things the same way. So I'm always trying to be more improvisational, but I don't. Sometimes it just goes so bad that I'm like, I need to just keep saying. But I'm always trying to be more like Rory. It's funny because Rory and Nate come up on this podcast more than any other comics.
Oh, really?
Because I think it's because like they're Southern, they're amazing. There's nobody like them.
Yeah, I think that's probably true. Yeah, they're incredible.
Yeah,
and I think the improvisational part of it for me is. I think you have to have another level of confidence to be improvisational. Totally. Because if you're not completely bought into the
committed, 100%,
it's going to suck.
Yeah,
you gotta
99% committed, not enough.
You got to be 100% leaning into that, whatever it is you're doing. And I'm not. I can't. I tried.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he's pretty incredible. You ever see the one too? And he did one. He was on one late night show with another comedian. Have you seen that one?
Oh, with John Doerr, where they like
where they said we double booked the show, but we only have so much time, so they bring both of them out there and they both start doing their set simultaneously.
Yeah,
and it's hilarious.
Yeah, like Conan. So and there's another one where his buddy's playing the piano. Have you seen that one? And he's doing it's another late night set. So like he's such a great joke writer, but he's always like expanding what comedy can be.
Yeah,
which I think is cool. It's Rory's. I can't believe he's on my like top of my bucket list to see live, and I can't believe he's still kind of playing smaller like theaters.
He was here not long ago, right? And I hate I missed him. I can't remember.
He was in South Carolina. We had another show. It was like earlier this year. I don't think he's been in Asheville this year, but he was in South Carolina.
Yeah, man. I he's on bucket list for me.
Because being in the room for that show is going to be just electric. It's not going to be just him just saying things he's memorized. Which is mostly what I do,
Well, that's me too. I was like, I got my whole script kind of thing,
That's like Cody. He's like he's been on here several times, and he likes to start his sets with something that happened today, and just like get an organic moment going, and then slide into your material. And I want to do it that way so badly, and I've spent most of this year committing to that. I'm like, I'm going to get up and do the first few minutes about today, but eventually I kind of was like, this. They can lose confidence in you in those first few minutes, and then you never get them back. So now I've kind of gone back to the more tried and true advice of like, do a joke works first.
Absolutely. That's me too. Yeah.
And I think what you said about committing is a big part of it, because it's like I might be 80, 90% committed, but it's got to be 100.
It's got to be
confidence
100.
has got to be like. I hope to get there. I don't know.
But I'm like you. I've got about probably 3 or 4 kind of, and they're not even they're not jokes. I mean, they're jokes. But they're just immediate openers, just like 2 lines of something, to open it. So I've got like 3 or 4 of those that I just kind of rotate through.
Oh,
but they work, and then I get in the material, and then it's easier if you start off with a little bit of a chuckle. I think it just goes way better.
I can make you guys laugh. I know what I'm doing. So in a few minutes, when I'm doing a longer setup, you guys have some trust in me that like there is going to be a punchline at the end. Whereas I talk about today for a few minutes and it goes badly, they're like, why would we even keep listening to this asshole? This is.
When you said it, I was just thinking about my day to day. I was like, what funny happened today?
Yeah.
I don't even know what I could talk about.
It's hard, yeah.
But you were talking about Netflix. I mean, there's so many comedians on Netflix and Prime and all the different things, and I think that makes it tougher for the local comedian comedy shows,
right?
Because it creates an expectation of level of quality, but then it also, they can sit at their home and not pay 10, 15, 20 bucks to go see a show. I mean,
and the other part to that too is that, you got so many people that they've heard of on these places. There's a ton of great comedians they've never even heard of.
Right.
And if you got a show that's got, hey, we got such and such and such and such, who to us would be like, holy shit.
Yeah.
To them it's like, who the hell's that? I'm not going. You know? I mean, it's almost like you almost need a TV credit to really draw, when you're on the road kind of thing. I don't know. I'm doing a show next week in Lumberton, and I'm headlining it, and I'm like, how are they selling tickets to this? I'm like, I hope. I mean, it's like the first show they're doing at this place, right? And it's a great group of guys, but I'm kind of like, how are they like, hey, he's from Bristol, Tennessee, y'all.
Yeah, I know what you mean. It's like I get to headline a show like not that often, like once a year or something, and I'm always trying to get that because I want to do like 40 minutes. But then when you get one, you're like, oh shit, like it's gonna be on me if no one comes. Like you start thinking, like how many people are gonna come see me headline? Like everybody's got kids and stuff too. Everybody my age is like, we couldn't get a babysitter, so it's like.
And I'm like telling people at home, it's like, hey, you should make a little road trip.
Please, I'll pay for your hotel, please.
Well, having produced shows, I mean, that's the toughest part is getting people to actually pull the trigger on an unknown.
Yeah.
And even like when you ask another comedian, hey, I want you to be on the show, how few will actually have a headshot and a bio that they'd send you right away.
Yeah.
To get that kind of stuff. And then, helping them. And it's kind of like, at the Wallace or whatever, when I try to do a show, I like to have at least a couple local people who will hopefully bring their friends. Yeah. And if I'm bringing somebody from Nashville or Atlanta or wherever, it's a tough sell to get those people to come. The last guy was Adam Minnick from Cincinnati, Ohio. Mm-hmm. Nobody knows Adam Minnick. He's got a dry bar and all that. Mm-hmm. But getting people to come to that show and spend $20, that was a little bit of a challenge.
That's the hard thing with just shows that you try to put on somewhere. So like a comedy club, like Blue Ridge is an example. If you're a comedy club and people come and enjoy themselves, and enough people come and enjoy themselves, then you begin to be like, okay, you may not know them, but you're going to have a good time. Right. There are going to be funny people that come through.
You trust the venue.
You trust the venue kind of thing. And that's a great thing to have if you're trying to book shows is to have a venue that, or even be a producer that puts on good shows,
Yeah, like the brand of like the Wallace Theater, people are like, well, that's just that's always a good time. What is it, like monthly or something like that? Or?
They only have shows on Saturdays.
Okay.
Like and it's a BYOB, and they know that they do a lot of improv.
They mostly do improv shows, which are kind of cool. I mean, I've never done any of those, but I hear you.
I know it's going on the internet, so you got to pretend like you like improv. But
well, it's funny. I've been to some really good improv shows. Yeah. Not there. Now, I mean, no, they're good. There can be some good shows, but like if you've been to Second City, or whatever, and you're like, oh wow, and and then
it can be good.
It can be.
I didn't know from all the regional improv. It's kind of like, I'm sort of joking. Like, it's always fun to talk shit about improv because you know how it is. It's like the other side. They're all supportive in their group.
Yeah,
and we're up there alone. We're lone wolves.
Yeah. We had a guy that came and did improv classes at Blue Ridge, and I thought, hey, maybe this will help with crowd work.
Yeah.
So I took it.
Yeah.
And I had a good time doing it. It was fun to do, and I think I learned a couple things, but not enough to where I'm like, hey, I want to do improv, Yeah. I was just like, hey, if I have to do improv, maybe I picked up something,
I just love that it's on me. If it goes well, it's on me. If it goes poorly, it's on me. I don't know. I guess it's just the group project from school. It's like, oh God. Yeah. Now I got to worry about all these other people's feelings. Like the calculations in my head become too much to be present at that point.
Yeah. Well, the guy who owns Wallace, Chris Maloney, he actually Second City. He actually was on that.
Well, he does. I mean, and I was joking. It's not bad. It's not Second City good. You know what I mean? Like
not quite.
I mean, because it's local people.
SNL isn't coming down to scout out.
They're not scouting it. But I'm entertained. I've been entertained when I go to see it. But I mean, it's Johnson City. And it's people from Johnson City. It's not Chicago and Second City. It's not SNL, but it's fun. I do. I mean, they are pretty creative in some of the scripts and stuff that they come up with. I mean, they do the improv, but some of the stories that they're kind of the premises, they're pretty unique. So,
yeah, I have no real hate in my heart, but I never miss an opportunity.
I just don't know if they're going to listen to this podcast. Yeah. Is really what it comes down to. I'm hedging my bets.
They're scared to do real comedy, which is stand up. So they're up there with their little supportive group. No, acting like it's funny. Yeah, it's not.
What the greatest thing is, though, here, and this is fun. You will appreciate this. Is that some of the improvers, they do fancy themselves stand up at an open mic, and they are not.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen some go okay, but by and large, it's like, Yeah, you should just stay with the improv.
Yeah. Yeah, the idea of improv is like, comedians only have like 3 friends that'll come to a show. So there's 5 of them. You can create the illusion there's actually a crowd of people that are enjoying. There's just more people pity laughing. There's this awkward... I'm just kidding. We used to have like the auditorium. There used to be improv before the open mic every Tuesday. Mm-hmm. We all the stand-ups just sitting there in the back watching this. There's the only people watching it are like a bunch of stand-ups who are waiting for like stand-up to start. And finally they pulled the plug on that, and we could just start with the stand-up. And it's been so much better.
I mean, and it's hard enough doing that as a stand-up, right? Because most stand-ups, even at an open mic, are still just sitting there waiting to go up.
Yeah, yeah, it's the worst room to play for.
If you get some laughs, you're like, okay, I'm doing something here today. If you get a room, laughs, some stand-ups in the room. So
yeah, is that like at the mic on Wednesdays up there? Do you get non-comics sometimes? Is there?
Yeah, I mean, there's sometimes. They just moved the venue, so there's still people that probably don't know where it's at. I mean, they were getting pretty good audiences for open mic when they're at the other place, because too there's a lot of walk-through traffic there. It's a free show. People popping in. And that makes them a lot better. If there's an audience, it makes it a lot better. Yeah. But I did an open mic, the first probably open mic they did at the new club. And there was like a couple there. I mean, I say a couple, like a man and a woman there.
Like literally 2.
Like a couple was there, and then like a bunch of comedians, and it was. And there was an older guy there that decided at the end of it, he's like, you know what? I think I'm going to try this. and he went up and he just told a story. It's a great story, But I was working on some new stuff, and I still don't know how it is.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm still not sure how it is,
Yeah, it's hard to get a read on it, and then you get a good show, and you're like, well, should I try here, or what if it ruins my? It's always like, how do you?
Right. Yeah.
How do you guys work? Like, you gotta. What's your process? That's always fun. Like, do you write down funny things? Do you actually sit down and write it out before you get up, or?
I do usually. It's hard. It's easier for me to write it. I'll improvise a lot of it in my head, but then if I don't write it down, I don't remember it how I want it sometimes, and so I tend to write it somewhere until I know it, and then I might. Like, I don't know where half my jokes are now. That I wrote down because I know them, and I don't know, I had a hard drive somewhere or something. But I like to write them, and it just kind of keeps me, because the other thing that I try to do too is I have a tendency when I write, my style is very storytelling kind of thing.
Yeah.
I have a tendency to, when I'm first doing it, and I write it down, I'm like, okay, now I got to cut some fat. There's some things I don't need to say in this. I need to get to the punches quicker. So for me, it's more a process of writing it out, what I think's funny, and then going back and saying, all right, how do I shorten the fluff, and get to the meat?
Like dump it all out there and then shave off whatever's not serving the punchline.
It's not serving the punchline, and so that's typically my process.
My favorite thing is when you have something in there that you think you need for them to understand, and then you take it out and they still laugh, and you're like, whoa. When you can remove setups that aren't, that's my favorite thing.
Yeah. I wrote a joke one time accidentally, and the first time I did it, I didn't even put into my head this, and it worked, and they laughed, and I was like, why was that so funny? And then I was like, oh, I just got my own joke that I accidentally made.
Yeah, that's my favorite too.
Well, yeah. So it was like I was talking about like twisting my ankle on stage, and I said, I was just standing there, I wouldn't do anything, And I said, at some point, my ankle was like, I think we're done here. Let's roll. And I was thinking, let's roll in terms of let's leave.
Yeah.
And I was like, let's roll. And they laughed. And I was like, hold on, I rolled my ankle.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I get what I did there. And I didn't know what I did there.
That's the best when a joke comes from just an organic moment.
Yeah.
And then you got to notice it. And you're like, do you record them and listen back? Or do you just remember? Something like that?
Well, sometimes I record them. I mean, I do record sets a lot. I'll record some at home too. I have a tendency to stand in front of the mirror with a spatula You know, and I'm, hey.
Oh, yeah, as a microphone. Okay.
Yeah, trying to look at my face, you know, like, hey, yeah, and doing whatever, you know, but I don't do near as much of that as what I used to. I think I've gotten a little bit lazy, you know, kind of thing. But
it ebbs and flows, you know. Sometimes, like, there's the thing, advice where you should sit down every day and write, like the Seinfeld thing. And to me, it's like, then it feels like homework I don't want to do. It's like, I'll find, like, there'll be, like, 1 month where I get, like, all my new bits for the year.
Yeah.
And then nothing for such a long time. But
that's where I'm at right now, too.
Yeah.
Nothing for a while.
Yeah.
And it's like...
It always feels like you've written your last joke, right? It's always like, will there be another one? Am I going to be telling the same?
Well, and for me, it's like, okay, now it's time to go on the road because they don't know
They
these.
They don't, yeah.
They've never heard these yet. You know?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I've been there. I like for recently, I'm like, God, can I even do this? Because I broke my back. I was like, did I break my spirit? At the same time, I'm like, am I even funny anymore? You know? And I'm struggling for new stuff.
And that's, I think, a struggle that all comedians have is if you're working it, am I funny? Is this funny? You know, I'm not funny. You know, I think we're our own worst critic. I mean, I hate to watch myself on a video because I critique it to death. You know, and I'm the world's worst on word economy. You know, trying to make sure the punch is the last word. You know, doing all those techniques.
You do the short jokes.
So it's one of those things that I think I can micromanage myself when I'm looking at my own stuff.
Yeah.
And I mean, coming up with joke ideas, I have probably 100 premises that I've never done anything with because I don't know how to get it going.
I got the list of premises. I'm like, I can make something funny out of that. And I never do.
Yeah.
You know, they're just there on my phone.
When you have, like, how do you go from this? I think this could be funny to, like, I got something I want to try.
Well, I try to take whatever it is and write something around it. You know, I mean, like...
Not even necessarily a joke, but just write, like, almost like stream of conscious, just start writing anything on it?
Yeah, I mean, I try to make a joke out of it, right? I'm like, I think about something that, you know, maybe, I don't know, that maybe, or can I add it to an existing joke? Like I do an insomnia joke, and sometimes I've had a thought at night when I can't sleep. I was like, yeah, I'll just add that to the insomnia joke, you know? And I was thinking about this when I could, you know, whatever, but... I think, okay, here's a funny premise, make that into a bit. And I don't know, man. Sometimes I get back to it. Sometimes I do. Sometimes I think the ones that are the best, I struggle with the most. I'm like, there's got to be a joke here. And I do it, and it's not any good. And I'm like, and then I'll do it. If it doesn't go well at open mic 2 or 3 times, it's dead to me forever, you know. And I'm like, I don't even pull it back out, you know.
But do you guys find yourself, though, if I attend a comedy show, and I go to a lot of the shows, you know, Brad Upton was in town, Mike Goodwin, there was a whole lot, but it seems like it gets my creative juices going.
Yeah.
Not to steal anything they're doing, but it's kind of like
just to be next to it.
Yeah, it's like I like what they did there. I like how they, you know, maybe there's something there that I could not steal, but emulate or try to find.
I think it's. I mean, that's what they say. That's kind of the sincerest form of flattery, right? Is not necessarily like doing what it is they do, but you know, a lot of things stylistically. I've picked up on stuff like that too. I mean, and I'll tell you other people that I know have had. Like, I love Aaron Weber, and I don't know if you've ever seen Aaron Weber, but I swear to God, he's like. His style is almost just like Nate Bargatze. Justin Mays, his style is Shane Gillis. Mm-hmm. I mean, you know, you can, because I was like, it was like, I remember, because I saw Justin Mays at an open mic before I ever knew who Shane Gillis was. And then I saw Shane Gillis, like, holy shit. Justin Mays is doing this guy like almost like he's imitating, but it's just his style.
Shane is the most pervasive one right now. Like when I go to Nashville, I see everybody doing the Shane moves, and it's like I think like when you start, it's so hard to find your voice. I mean, if you are one of those maniacs from the fringes of society, maybe you already got it. But I think it's like as a songwriter, if you start by ripping people off, it's like you don't even quite know who you are. But then eventually, hopefully, you find your own voice.
You were talking about I see Nathaniel Boer and Shane Gillis, just like you're saying, holding the mic and the way he does that as well.
Yeah,
I mean, I see all that. I think every young bro that's white right now is doing Shane. Like he's just Shane has so much energy, so funny.
Yeah.
I mean, and anyone that does the Trump impression is doing Shane. I mean, Shane is just like, so that's why I kind of don't try not to listen to too much Shane, because I'm like, ooh, if everybody else is, I'd rather like be trying to rip off Richard Pryor, because I'm like,
right.
It was long ago. He's a very different guy than me, so I'm going to be such an imperfect mirror of that. I could try to copy Richard Pryor exactly. It's not going to be like it, but if you're copying some bro that's about like your demographic and age, I think that gets a little more. Yeah, people are going to be like, you like that other guy, you know what I mean?
The thing is, I don't even think, and you know, I don't want to say it as a derogatory about these people, but I think it's just like that's them trying to find their voice, like you say, and that's a style that they it's almost you get through osmosis, you know. I mean, for years there's been comedians that stylistically were very close to other comedians because that was who influenced them, you know. So I don't think there's anything wrong with that, but you're right, you know. If everybody's kind of doing the Shane stuff, you know, it's like, you know, it's good that you have the consciousness to say, okay, let's focus on somebody else, you know, like a dead guy, right?
Yeah,
Richard Pryor.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, nobody's gonna see him out, you know.
Yeah, it's like I think it's more okay to steal from the generation before you than what's happening now is just like it's, you know what I mean, like steal from things that are farther away from you.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, when you see Mark Norman, does that not remind you of W.C. Fields? Of course, you may not know who W.C. Fields is.
I know W.C. Fields by name, but I don't think I've ever actually watched it.
I mean, we're not. I mean, listen.
I'm trying to emulate Red
All right, I feel real young, which I appreciate this. Now, I'm aware of W.C. Fields, but I don't. I mean, isn't that like Charlie Chaplin almost? Like,
no, not quite that far. Not quite that far.
The earliest, yeah. But Norman is somebody that I just don't get. I mean, I love that. I mean, I can say I don't get it because he's doing very, very well, but it's just like. I almost find his delivery to be like ironic and insincere. Like, I just like, I don't know. It doesn't. It's weird because I just don't. Everyone's just like, oh, Mark Norman, the greatest, and I'm like, I get that there's a lot of mechanical joke writing there, but it's like it almost kind of lacks heart, or like Bargatze is somebody who's just got the, like I kind of want to feel it a little more, you know, feel the heart of it.
Yeah, I think I get that about it because I mean I like Mark Norman, but I'm not crazy about him like other people. I mean it's funny too because I mean there's taste that people have. There are big comedians that I don't find funny at all.
Yeah,
you know, and I'm like
subjective,
and I'm like how are they selling tickets? I mean, why are they on HBO right now? You know, but you know it's a taste thing. You know,
well, see, I don't even find Nate really that funny. I know that's kind of like Chick-fil-A, you know, talking about sacrilegious, but I just have to ask you know, and just like on his one video, the one Netflix on the Tennessee Boy or whatever, it's like a laugh track was in there. In my mind,
that was one of the funniest ones I've ever seen was the Tennessee Kid.
So if you're not laughing, do you still like? Do you still want to listen to him, or are you kind of like I don't? Because I feel like he has his cadence is almost like magical. Like
the way he delivers is
understated, chill,
and it's part of his appeal.
I almost think it's most of it is like the way he talks is like it's just hypnotic. Like it's so musical. Like
I agree 100%. There is something to that because to have that many. To have that much, and it never even come close to anything that isn't just crispy clean.
Yeah,
that's amazing to me.
Yeah,
but you're right. The way he can say things, though. I mean, he can make concepts that I couldn't make funny just out of how he delivers it. You know?
Yeah, like I feel like I could not speak English, but I would still want to hear the music of his voice. Like, and that's like for me, that's like very rare. Like it's a very singular kind of thing. But
not for Phil.
But
it's just your preference.
Yeah,
it's just like Dusty Slay.
Yeah,
you know, he's got the new Netflix. It doesn't do anything for me.
Oh yeah,
you know, because he kind of has this back and forth. Yeah, you know, we're having
so
a good
awkward.
time.
I like how he's got all those ticks, but he makes them work.
But it looks like he's about to bust out of his shirt.
Yeah.
But, you know, he sold Paramount. They had to add a second show at the Paramount because they're selling so many tickets.
Yeah.
And, you know, he's funny.
Yeah.
But, you know, I'm an Anthony Jeselnik. I like him.
Oh, yeah.
He's good, too. I like
Andrew
him.
Schultz. I like his ability
Andrew Schultz is good.
Yeah. You know, so that's the kind of...
I'll tell you the one I don't like is Chris D'Elia.
Yeah.
I
don't get him at all.
I like his crowd work. He's one of the best crowd workers.
I may not have seen enough of his crowd work because his jokes, I'm like, what?
Yeah. kind of got a sleazy kind of thing going on.
Yeah, I don't know. It just never did it for me. But you're right though. It's a who do you like?
And there's just so much of it now that you can. It's like music where you can be like so different genres. It's not like there's the 5 HBO specials per year era of comedy, so you can pick and choose who your guy is. I love Jeselnik though. Like I there's a part of me that wants to be this improvisational Rory guy that I try to be, but then there's also a part of me that just wants to be like Mitch Hedberg, or like just write those short Jeselnik. Jeselniks are like very kind of evil.
Yeah,
like,
they're great.
He's the villain.
It's very off color.
I guess he's kind of like you in that way, where he's doing a character, right? I mean, hopefully, is that okay to say that you do a character? Yeah, because you literally call yourself Grampy.
I mean, he's kind of trying to come off as the asshole.
Yeah, he's like the ultimate villain.
Yeah.
And so and he's got the short jokes. I think you do a lot of kind of short, like set up punch jokes. And I think there's so much like talking about your trauma is popular now, but there's always going to be a place for like short, well-written jokes, whether it's Rodney Dangerfield or Mitch or.
I admire those people that can do those short jokes because I have a hard time with those. Because, every now and then you might come up with one, but the thing is if that's who you are as a comedian, how many do you have to have for a set? There's a lot of those in there,
Right, like Stephen Wright.
Yeah, Stephen Wright. I mean,
just keeping people engaged by just doing like the pacing of the rhythm of it.
I think Stephen Wright, I love him.
Yeah.
I've watched a lot of his stuff, but I think after about 15 minutes, you're kind of brain dead with it.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, I think he's better in segments than he is to watch a full. I don't know that I could watch a full 45 minutes.
Short joke fatigue is real. Yeah, it's almost like you want some longer stories in there. At a certain point, I think the one-liner guys, it helps to be from another planet too. Like Mitch Hedberg, Stephen Wright, Dangerfield. I mean, they just look like they're from another planet.
Right. Yeah.
Like you can't just look like a regular dude and do it. There's also like things happening. Like I'll watch comedy with the sound down sometimes, Like I'll watch Richard Pryor with the sound down, and it's like it's Bugs Bunny. I mean, it's like you can almost get fooled into thinking he's just writing jokes, but he's moving around the stage. He's getting down on the floor. There's like all these things that are happening, like Bargatze's cadence. It's like you can almost think it's the words, but there's a lot of elements.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Kind of the deadpan to delivery of or whatever. But it's. I mean, you're talking about those guys that you mentioned with the one-liners or whatever, and how they do it so well. They're also, when you say another planet, they're also ones who like they got some stuff going on. Like they're like we were talking about early on. Like they're
neurodivergent.
Something ain't right. So
like they couldn't do anything except that.
Stephen Wright's been in a locker locked up before. I mean, it's something has happened there.
He couldn't just live some regular life like.
Yeah. but style wise, Anthony Jeselnik and Chris Rock both repeat their setup twice.
Yeah.
And it's just that style is very smooth. I mean, it's like a good bourbon. I mean, it's just kind of smooth in how they do it. And that's what I watch for is not necessarily for their jokes, but just watch how they're doing it, how they set it up, their pros. I mean, Dave Chappelle, if he hits his knee one more time with a microphone, I think I'll go freaking crazy. He does it all the time. And it's just like...
That's the cue to laugh.
Yeah.
But it's bam.
Yeah.
Bam.
That is his signature move.
Yeah.
Boom, boom, boom.
Because I think we can watch too much comedy.
You guys into Chappelle? How do you feel about Chappelle?
I was a huge fan of his show.
Yeah.
And I've enjoyed his stand-up. I like him. I mean, I don't know that I'm ready to put him on the Mount Rushmore, but I enjoy his shows. I actually went to one of his live shows he had in Chattanooga. Mm-hmm. And it was a birthday present. It was on the front row. And he murdered, man. It was really
front row. Oh, damn.
Yeah, it was a great show. So I like him, and God, some of his skits on the Chappelle Show was, to me, still I'm like,
oh yeah,
it's like to my kids where I'm like, let me show you this. I'll do a search on YouTube.
Yeah, you're still thinking of them, still relevant, like 20 years later.
The black white supremacist.
Oh yeah,
that one. Oh my God,
the blind,
yeah. I mean, he had a ton of them, man. But no, I like Dave Chappelle pretty good.
I like the fact that he's so rich that if he got canceled, it doesn't matter. That's where I want to be. Yeah. It's like, I'm so rich that, can cancel me, do whatever, but he's doing him.
I'm starting to appreciate the comedians that are kind of like, you know what? Fuck you. I'm going to say what I want to say.
Yeah.
Like Ricky Gervais, I love him too.
Yeah.
Because he didn't care, man.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what comedy should be a little bit. Is
Yeah.
I don't give a shit what you think,
Yeah.
kind of thing. That's what
It's
it was.
kind of the only place there is for that now.
Right,
So
yeah,
like if we
yeah.
take it away from comedy, where is it?
Yeah,
you know?
because I mean, yeah, there's people that do not like some of those guys based on some of that.
Oh yeah, I mean, I live in this virtue signaling liberal bubble. So I mean, Chappelle is like, I don't go around telling my comedy friends, my trans comedy friends, I love Chappelle, but but I do.
Chappelle or Trump, either one,
yeah,
right?
I know, exactly. It's almost like, whose side are you on? It's like I saw him here just before the pandemic. Downtown, and I just love the silences he takes, like as far as committing, like it's like Miles Davis or something where he'll play a note and then he'll just like let there be so much silence, and I just really love just how chill he is. Like it's something, just the confidence and the cool is just
That's cool to be able to do that, man. Because I know one of the hardest things for me when I even started comedy is I felt like I needed to rush through everything.
Totally. I still listen back, and especially if it's not going well, I'm like, there I go again, speeding up. Like you got to slow down.
Yeah.
That's what Ron White says. If you're bombing, slow down. If you're killing, slow down.
I need to listen.
Hard.
Well, that's the thing too. Is like I've often thought too. Like I got this good 30 minutes that if I just took my time could be 40.
Right. Yeah. You have more time than you think.
Yeah.
It's just the nerves and you're in your head. Yeah.
Well, and I've accidentally done I think I did in the first time I did Cary Theater. I remember, I think it was like, I can't remember what they said that they wanted me to do, but I was kind of I was flowing or whatever. And I looked down at my watch and I was like, man, I've been up here 35 minutes.
Yeah.
And I was like, and I was like, part of me is like, wrap it up. The other part of me is like, hell yeah, I've been up for 35 minutes.
And you get those long laugh tails.
Yeah.
And then you're about to say the next thing, but you wait a little longer and another laugh comes. You're like, yeah. When there's people laughing, that helps a lot too. You know,
for sure.
And then that gets shrunk back down when at the brewery where it's just
right, yeah.
dead silence. Like, do I just let there be 3 seconds of awkward silence, or do I?
Yeah.
So who are you guys, Mount Rushmore? If you're comfortable saying, like, who are your top? I know it's like can change day to day.
Yeah, I mean it can. I'll tell you.
But who influences, heroes?
Norm Macdonald's on mine.
That's always my number one. Yeah.
Yeah, Norm Macdonald's on mine. Yeah, Bergassi. I mean, I think I've seen enough of him that I'd put him there. And most of mine are probably more recent. I love Rory Scovel, kind of same way.
Yeah. We got like the same list. That's crazy.
Yeah, and I don't know, man. I'll tell you what, and he's not where he's gonna be, I don't think. But I just love his joke writing, and he's a friend. Joe Zimmerman, I think, is awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think his writing is great. He actually one joke I did. He's like, man, I love that joke. He's like, try this instead of that, and I did it, and it just murdered. And I was like, holy cow, I mean, it was just a change, like 2 words, and just the way I said it and it was just great.
He's got the mechanics of it or the patterns of it.
He's such a good writer.
Yeah, he's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, those are probably. I'm trying to think who else that I like, but those definitely. I don't know how many people are on Mount Rushmore. 4 or 5? I don't know.
Yeah.
So yeah,
handful.
Yeah.
Well, mine's more like the older people.
Okay.
Steve Martin.
Yeah.
Robin Williams, George Carlin.
Yeah.
Richard Pryor to a degree, but he definitely had his own style. Now, current people is more like Jeff Allen, the Brad Upton. I like Brad, and Mike Goodwin. Of course, these are people that you guys may not have heard of.
Yeah, I don't know those guys.
I was surprised by Steve Martin though, because it's like
well, wild and crazy guy.
Just like he's almost like he's like making fun of comedy or something. That's pretty out there.
But it's the freedom that he performed with.
Yeah.
It was just, of course, it could be cocaine too. But
was he a drug user?
Oh, I think most of them were. At some point. But it's just, and he's a character, to that degree. I mean, it's Steve Martin, but he's a wild and crazy guy, and all the other stuff that he does.
Did you read his book? Was it Born Standing Up?
No,
it's one of the best autobiographies. I love reading autobiographies.
Really?
I'm always trying to read them. It's the best. I mean, and just his process where he was, after every set, he would write down what worked and didn't work. So getting all the way to that point where he was the wild and crazy guy, was very meticulous. Worked. I guess he did Magic before. It's a great book. I would totally recommend it.
I have to read that. I like autobiographies too.
Yeah.
Now, of course, Seinfeld, billionaire and all that.
Yeah.
Well, you know what, Seinfeld, I forgot about him because that was probably my first.
Yeah, the 90s.
Well, I'll tell you. So the first real comedy show. I mean, I say first real comedy show. The first big comedy show. I might have been to like a Comedy Zone or whatever. I was like 22, and I saw Jerry Seinfeld at Caesar's Palace.
Is this before the show, or is this during the show, or like what year? Is this 80s, 90s?
Oh no, it's definitely early. So I would have been 22. So it'd been 92.
Okay, so like during the show.
Oh yeah. And I hurt when I left. I mean, my stomach hurt. I laughed so hard. And I was like, and I know at that point I was like, man, I would love to be able to do that.
Yeah.
So he definitely belongs up there.
Seinfeld was like, younger people don't understand how important he was. Like, I mean, just this podcast. I mean, the first time I saw this was him and George at the booth, just being like talking about nothing. And I was like, talking about nothing can be more compelling than like the hero's journey, and you have to go out in the darkness, and that's what we're doing now. And just like, I feel like young people are like, oh, Seinfeld is a hack. And it's like, it seems that way to you because he was so pervasive that everybody copied him. And now it seems like that was always a hacky thing. But it's like, no, he started all of that. Like,
for sure.
I mean, just in the 90s, stand-up comedy was kind of not like big like it is now. And watching that show with the clips in between, like...
That show was...
The show, just genius.
The best comedy show ever for me. I mean, it's just... I loved it.
Yeah.
Must see Thursday night, man. That was back in the day.
Yeah. That
Must see TV.
When we all like were there for the same thing, and the next day everybody would be. That was a nice thing.
Yeah.
So that each their own algorithm. Of, looking
I've seen every episode probably 10 times now. It's like one of those things. It's like I'm quoting it. It's just I love Seinfeld. So. And
then now it's like there's the new generation isn't aware of just how big of a deal that was. I think the whole like meta. Just the podcast. I think Seinfeld was the one that started this trajectory we've been on. Like the Louis show, that was just like a copy of. He did his own version. Did you guys watch Louis?
Yeah. I remember that.
Where he's like doing that. It's kind of like a dirtier his version of Seinfeld.
Right.
But there wouldn't have been Louis and then all the things after it if it weren't for Seinfeld.
For sure.
I don't think he gets. The young people hate on him.
I don't know why, dude. Because
they're trying to cancel him so hard.
They are trying. They're trying so hard to kill, and he's not having it either. Right?
Yeah.
And I love. So I love that about him too.
Yeah.
I'm not a cancel guy. I just like if I feel different about somebody, I don't want them. I want them to be fine. I don't want them to be. I don't want them to can't.
You take no pleasure out of seeing somebody get destroyed.
I don't take any pleasure in that at all. So. No, I'm a Seinfeld fan, and you mentioned Ron White. He's probably inching his way on there somewhere too. I love him too. He's a funny guy.
Yeah.
Now, who's yours?
I always say Norm Macdonald first. Yeah, we got to wrap up soon. I got to give the room up, but I always say Norm Macdonald. I just think he's just amazing. From like just the Weekend Update, but then also like he would come on Conan and tell those long stories. So the range, like I don't know if you watched his YouTube show, and then he'd had one on Netflix, but like at the end he has people read jokes, which I'm sure he wrote. So he can do everything from these like one-liners up to these long like Shaggy Dog stories. I just love Norm so much.
Too. And I'm always seeing a new video of him. I'm like, I got to show everybody.
Yeah.
Have you seen the one he was on the late night show with some? I can't remember. It might have been Conan.
The Moth Story.
The what?
The Moth Story.
No.
Oh, never mind. Go ahead.
It wasn't the Moth Story. It was like he was on there with somebody that was doing a movie with Carrot Top.
Chairman of the board. Yeah. Yeah, that was on Conan. That was back in the day. Like Conan's show was so shitty that like they didn't like Norm was down the hall doing SNL, so they'd just be like, let's get Norm to come on and just make fun of people. And that was like my first kind of like stand up. Yeah,
that was great.
Yeah, she's not happy about it. He's just like, and Conan's cracking up.
Yeah. Oh, have you seen the one when he's doing on the Seinfeld Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee, and he's like, what is it about? Oh, it's about the Bill Cosby thing.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I can't remember how it goes, but I remember I laughed.
Yeah, that he's
so
he's a hypocrite. That's the worst thing about Cosby. That set's online too, or like I can't do it, but yeah.
Yeah.
There's another bit. I think it's like one of the last things he recorded. It's like right before lockdown started for COVID. It's just him at the Laugh Factory doing jokes about how the world's about to end. Norm, he's just like talking about the news. It's really funny.
He's awesome. Yeah,
I love him. Another person that like everybody hates and wants to cancel that was really a big deal for me was Roseanne Barr. Like growing up, that her show and just her attitude and swagger. She doesn't really do that much stand up, but I love Roseanne. She was another just early influence. I just think she's a badass.
Yeah, no, I liked Roseanne too, man. Yeah,
but yeah, a lot of my heroes have been canceled. I mean, Louis was like. I mean, honestly, I think Louis just.
I think he's great.
I mean, as far as like a master of just writing and delivery. I mean, I'm not saying he's a good person, but I'm saying like I don't think there's anyone who does better jokes than him.
He does great jokes.
Yeah,
and he's
just a genius. But he's a genius who like is a casual. Like that's what I love about like Norm is like this brilliant guy. If you read up on him, he's like. He read like Tolstoy and all this stuff, but he's not talking down. When he's up there on stage, he's kind of almost like a dumb guy, like a smart guy playing a dumb guy. I always like that. I don't like comedy that talks down, patronizing comedy. It's like Louis and Norm. I really appreciate that. I think Shane Gillis is like that too. He's like brilliant, but he just is like this dumb bro up there, you know?
Yeah.
Well, we should probably wrap it up. We're at an hour 35 minutes.
Yeah, this is fun, man. I've enjoyed it.
Yeah,
it's going quick.
Keep going. Yeah,
worth the trip for sure.
Yeah, good. Hanging out at the library.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
had little kids poking their heads in the window. That's
the home.
She was checking us out.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, Phil, Brian, thank you so much for coming down.
Enjoyed it,
Thank
man.
you.
Good times.
All
Thanks.
right.